right, everybody ready? Awesome. We're going to get started, and a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today has to do with confidence. And I have to just read this because our first speaker, Wendy Kalman-New, said, "It takes confidence to do what small business owners do." And she also said, it's much easier to collect a paycheck. So I think it was Jay in the last panel said, being a small business owner is not for the faint of heart, and I agree. And one of the primary elements that we need to have is sales confidence so that we can stand firm in our value and also command the fees that we need, otherwise we have a hobby. So I'm Casey, you'll know who I am. I'm Casey, the Sales Breakthrough Coach. What I do, what I'm passionate about is supporting business owners so that they can indeed get out the right words to use and sell much more effectively and much more efficiently. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you who you are, because I really want to know, like a lightning round of why you wanted to stay for this workshop. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I need that.
I have up to 1:30.
Okay, 1:30. What time? Oh, 12:12. Okay, great. Perfect. One day I was browsing on Facebook, as we often do, and this quote just hit me. And this person said, your words have the power to either invite a conversation or put an end to one before it starts. Why is this so important? Real quick, why is this important to know this as a business owner? Yes. Absolutely. This could have been the perfect person for your business, the perfect client, perfect customer, the perfect funder. But if you don't get the words right, that relationship is never going to happen. So what I'm hoping by the end of my time together with you today, that you have some verbiage that you can use so that your conversations will sustain themselves. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. So this is what we're here for, more rewarding selling. Who here jumps out of bed and says, yippee, I can't wait because I'm going to go networking and selling? Is there anybody here who feels that way? Okay. Is there anybody who has a little bit of angst about it? Little angst? Okay, all right, a little bit, yeah. So what I hope to do is just give you some tools for the briefcase, that you can use this afternoon if you want to, so that you can have more rewarding selling. Okay, so who am I? Why do I do this work? My clients call me the sales confidence mentor, because that's really what I imbue and instill in my clients. I've worked in corporate America 30 years in sales for a lot of healthcare organizations like Aetna, Cigna, Emblem Health, Sunrise Senior Living. Now what I do is I work with entrepreneurs who love their businesses. We talked about that in the panel. That's real, the passion, right? But perhaps they dread the sales part. And without the sales part, your business will not, right, thank you, it'll go nowhere. You'll have an expensive hobby. So I coach sales leaders and corporations. I coach them so that their teams are much more effective and efficient. I bring in systems as well as the words. Because really, at heart, I'm also a public speaker. And it happened that I had a couple of clients that closed 5-figure deals. Humble beginnings. Oh my gosh, can I tell you all? This, for me, was hard to learn. I am an introvert by nature. I was someone who would rather sit back and let others take the lead, right? When I say I was a reformed wallflower, that's real. That is so real. I got into sales. I was so green, I did not know how to invite a customer to lunch. I didn't know. I asked my manager, I want to take them to lunch. What do I say? How do I say it? I failed the first sales job that I have. Miserable. Terrible. Didn't make quota, didn't know what to say, and was just bumbling around out there without any plan. And what happened was I got a job that gave me the coaching, training, and mentoring that I needed. Who here feels that with the perfect coaching, training, mentoring, you can rock it? Anybody here ever have a coach? So you know the value of this. So I said, this is what I do. I'm at the intersection of speaking and selling. So cool. Who's in the room today? Can we have a lightning round? I mean like really fast, because we're going to have to be out of here at about 25 after, come the next hour. But I would love to know your first name, what your business is, and why. Why are you in this sales building workshop? Why are you in this master class? So who's this master class for? I mean, really, when we get down to brass tacks, who's going to benefit the most? Well, it's for you if you are someone who shies away from sales conversations. Shying away doesn't have to be physically running away, but it can mean that you're shrinking inwardly, which means that you're not stepping up and owning it with your fullest self. People can see that and they can feel that. So again, what I want to give you today would be some concrete tips that you can put in your briefcase so that even if you have to pull out this piece of paper and read it in your car, you will have the language and the confidence so that you're no longer shying away. If you're self-conscious, I have had clients that say that when they have to sell or pitch, that they have a physical response to it. This could mean, some people turn red, but some people really feel as though their skin is crawling. Is there anybody here like that? We're friendly. This is a safe space. It used to happen to me too. When I would have to give a presentation, my back would become completely drenched in sweat. It's real, right? This is real. I would clench my fist so hard that I would have fingernail marks in my hands. So we don't need to beat ourselves up over sales. It can actually be fun. I'm going to help you do that. If you don't want to sound salesy or pushy or obnoxious or manipulative, who's that here? Thank you. So there is a way that we can stand in our power and be assertive and still be nice and still be liked and still be friendly. You'll be able to have those tools with you today. If you don't really have a system for business development, so that might mean you're kind of out there collecting those business cards and you got a stack of them at home, all right, we got to talk. And you're not really sure what to say next. Like, how do I jumpstart a conversation with people? How do I nurture this so that we have some relationship going and we can evaluate whether we're right for each other? All right? Obviously, help with more confident speaking. And God forbid if you're losing sales, you're frustrated, you lost the last 3, you don't know what you're going to do, Christmas is coming, all that stuff, all the pressure. So here's the roadmap. The roadmap is the agenda. This is what we're going to do. You're going to discover how to use the most overlooked sales tool ever so that prospects sell themselves. Wouldn't it be nice if people could just say, oh, I want it, or just hear you? Actually, there are some tricks that can make that happen, and it's all in what you say and how you invite. We're going to talk about how to move from that casual conversation, oh, hey, how you doing, to a business-oriented dialogue without that awkward speed bump in the middle, like, okay, now I'm friendly, now I'm Casey Sales. And they say, well, wait a minute, what happened to the person who was just here? So you are one individual. Let's make it all congruent, right? And what else have I got for you? Oh my goodness, who fears being that annoying salesperson? Yeah, we don't want to get on people's nerves. Yet, we have to be assertive. So there's language and there's ways to do that. How about getting people to pursue you? Wouldn't that be nice? So that you wouldn't have to work so hard. And then I will have an opportunity for you to turn this from interesting information to lasting transformation. So you can actually carry this conversation further if you so desire. Do these phrases resonate with you? I'm so frustrated. How do I get an appointment with that key decision maker? I keep calling, but I'm getting nowhere. So who was it who wanted to do corporate? It was you, Renee. Yeah, hopefully you don't stay, if you ever are in this place, it does happen, hopefully you don't stay there long. What about this one? I need to get better at small talk. I can start a conversation, but what the heck do I say next? How do I keep this thing going? And then, how do I interest them in buying? So there's a whole continuum of conversation that needs to happen for them to even want to buy. What about this one? I love what I do, but I hate the sales part. I just rushed through it. Like, I really wanted to just kind of go away, so I'm going to rush it. And then I just want to get it over with. Anybody ever feel like that? Well, that was me back in the days of a sweaty back and indentations in my palm. I just wanted to hurry up. It was uncomfortable. I didn't like asking people for things. I didn't like getting them to commit. And Lord, asking them for money or a check, really uncomfortable. All right. How about this one? I get really nervous and tongue-tied when I'm in a sales conversation, and I just feel like I'm talking myself into a hole. Anyone ever feel unfocused when you were in a sales dialogue? Yeah. Okay. So what happens when we're feeling these things? First of all, the emotions can kind of take us out of being present. The best place for you to be is right there with your customer, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. And I like to say it causes the ay, 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 ay. So I'll explain that in a minute. I've got to sell this thing. I mean, pressure's on. You know, it's almost the end of the year. Where am I in terms of my sales projections? I got to make some money. Christmas is coming. Hanukkah's coming. They're all looking at me, right? I don't stand out, which means I'm not differentiated in my field. How am I going to stand out and get people to remember me? I'm not getting enough appointments. The mortgage is overdue. That's not a good feeling at all. I didn't close the last 3 sales. Now I'm feeling like I'm in a slump, like I'm really no good at this. Anybody ever been here besides me? It's scary. And you wonder if you really got it. Do I have the chops to do this? Should I look for a job? And my sales manager, could be my spouse, is breathing down my neck. Because they want to know, are you doing this thing or what? I haven't seen anything hit the checking account. Right? This is real. So there's something out there called sales baggage that can occur when we're in this way and we're hyper-focused on ourselves. All of that last slide, that ay, the point of that was I'm focused on me. What really needs to happen, no matter how bad you think it is to focus on them, the person on the other side of the desk, perhaps your prospective client. Here's where this comes from. Brianna, this might be for you. She's saying, yeah, it is. We have gotten a paradigm that sales is bad. Where could this have possibly come from? You tell me, where'd it come from?
It's the old school car salesman, the hard clothes, the Benjamin Franklin clothes, all that nonsense.
Yeah, nonsense that we've either had it done to us, it wasn't done for us, so we walked away with a bad taste in our mouths. I have a good friend who would say, felt like I needed to take a shower after I talked to that guy. Where else? Where else might we get this paradigm that sales is bad? Movies? Parting with our money. And maybe we really didn't want to, but we felt manipulated, right? Yeah, Renee, what were you going to say? Same thing? Yeah. So I have some key words up here, like manipulate, coerce, interrupting. Like they don't listen to me. They don't hear me. They use a lot of cliches. Surely this is not who we want to be, right? So how do we reconcile the fact that this is what's out there and you felt this yourself? Then how the heck are you going to be a good salesperson? What do you think? Yeah, Brianna.
The way that I've been talking to myself, because when you're selling cars, you're selling something that you need to sell. You want to sell to them. You're not necessarily thinking about what the need of the customer is, but because I know that my service is something that people need, like I know that credit repair is important, that I can switch it around and find value in what I'm selling. So
there you go.
Value, I find the peace in selling.
I like that, finding value. Anybody? Yeah, Felicia.
I feel like a lot of the downfall in sales that I've seen not go well is people that are trying to sell me something that are very judgmental. They're not asking enough questions.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of judging and assuming.
Yes, yes.
And that's when it turns into sleazy salesperson.
Yeah.
Because they clearly don't know, and then they're running you down, they're trying to have lunch, and, all those different things. Because they're judging based on what you do, but not on who you are, because everybody does something differently.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we all have sales baggage, right? So on your handout, if you will, let's take 20 seconds, really fast. No full sentences, but 3 bullet-pointed words, if you will. What's your brand of sales baggage? And what I mean is, like, how do you typically feel right before you have a sales conversation? It might be an appointment, you're sitting down with someone. How do you feel? Do you feel excited, or do you feel kind of nervous? Do you feel dread? What are you saying to yourself?
You have an extra pen?
I do. No, don't apologize. I offered them up. Here you go. Please pass that down. So 3 words, if you can, quickly, so that we can stay on time. And I'll be quiet. Take 10 more seconds, please. All right. Who has one you'd like to share? Yeah, go ahead, Brenda.
Need.
Say a little more about that.
When I'm approaching a person, I want to know if they need what I have.
Ah, okay. So that's where your head is when you're,
Right.
before you have your meeting.
Right.
That's a healthy place to be. I wonder if they need it. Good. Who else? Yeah, Brianna.
I feel over aware of like everything. Like I'm noticing myself, my body language. Focus more on like how I'm presenting myself than the actual talk that they're having. Like, I don't want to
Yes.
seem too overbearing, so I'm not even paying attention because I'm trying to be so aware.
Ah, yes. So awareness is good. Hyper awareness may get in your way. And some ways to kind of step out of that might be to do some deep breathing beforehand, might be to think a little bit more about where they're coming from. I do a whole workshop on research and how to know your potential prospect who's sitting across the desk. So, this could be researching them, obvious places, Google, local newspapers, learning more about them so that you can come in armed with something nice to say in your pleasantries that really relates to them. And then you're in a conversation. So you don't have to feel that feeling like you're on. Because I'm sensing that's what it is. I'm on, and I got to really watch it. Is that part of what you're feeling? Yeah, I've been there. Felicia, did you want to add something?
My overall feeling, I think, is optimistic, because unlike her, I want to look for the benefits that I might be able to offer to solve whatever the problem is. And then
Good.
for her not to be, knowing that I have something to offer, I just try to stay optimistic. That way I'm not too over anxious, or I'm not too pushy.
Yeah, yeah. Positive attitude is really, really helpful. Yeah. Yeah, Jason, go ahead.
It was interesting you said research. The good news is I'm pretty natural at sales, and I feel like in this day and age, if I have to try to sell photography and video, I'm not sitting in front of my client, and
Okay.
that's okay.
Okay.
I mean, please, we could sit in front of someone else, but I think my issue sometimes is exactly what you said, because of the schedule and the amount of people we have to be in front of is, I sometimes end up in front of someone that I didn't do the proper research.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to walk away from this thing with a deal, but I could lose on this deal if I didn't get the right information. Maybe I'm talking 5,000 when I should have been talking 10,000. Maybe I should be talking 1,000 and I went way over their head. So the research is crucial
It
to
is.
this whole conversation.
Yes. And I will just say, and then we'll move on, in this day and age where we have so many tools available to research our potential client, you know what, there's no excuse for not doing it. So even if I'm running all over and it's 10 minutes before the appointment, I'm on my cell phone in my car trying to get Wi-Fi. That's better than not doing it at all. Go on their LinkedIn page and look at the profile. See what you can pick up about their interests, their hobbies, where they went to school. Do they sit on any boards? Whatever you can pick up on that might give you some indication of their interests and maybe socioeconomic background, because you're right, it can be such a tremendous misstep if you don't do that. So what I like to say, I came up with a little acronym to help me stay balanced and grounded when I have to sell, is that it really is all about service. It's about authenticity. That means when I'm who I am, it gives them permission to be who they are. We can all relax. We can let our hair down. We can even, I might even say, hey, look, you know what? I'm a little nervous today. I'm just going to be real with you. So, this is what I prepared. I'd want to ask you some questions first and learn all about you. Is that okay? And they'll be like, yeah, let me give you some tea or coffee. There's no need for nervous. Then everybody's relaxed. It's all good. Leadership. Is it important to have leadership when you are in sales?
Yes.
It is everything. Your potential customer is looking for you to take their hand and lead them through the process. What happens when we don't? You end up where you don't want to be.
And they take the leadership, they can drag you around.
Let me tell you something, if you don't, somebody else will. So I also like to say we're educators because we're bringing knowledge about our product, our potential solutions, and spark that interest, be a catalyst, spark that desire, be a disruptor, in a nice way, of course. So selling motivates people to act. And I was happy when we went around the room that we didn't get a lot of the doom and gloom, that you have pretty much positive expectations when you're sitting across from someone. So hopefully this enhances where you were sitting. So let's talk, yeah, Pam. Want me to go back?
I just noticed that Spark was trademarked.
Yeah.
No, SALES is trademarked. This particular acronym for sales, the whole thing.
Okay. Did you expand? Okay.
Yeah, because I thought of that.
Can you expand on Spark?
Yeah. So when I say spark, I mean spark a bonfire. Be a catalyst. Be somebody interesting and exciting that walks through their door on that day. Be unforgettable because you've done your homework and you've done your research. This should give you some intuitive idea of their pain points because you know what their industry is, right? So you're going to research the industry. You're going to see whether the industry is shrinking or growing. What potential pitfalls is the industry itself going through? And then you can make some assumptions about that particular potential customer. When you walk in there with your own ideas and thought leadership, you ignite sparks. Does that make more sense? So it's about being a little bit different. Bringing your authentic you with you when you have that particular meeting. You do it already, because I've seen you.
There's like a resonance, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't you have to account for, you have something,
Mm-hmm.
but to spark means it's...
It does. It does. And it means be dynamic, be interesting. Don't be afraid to step into who you really are and bring that with you, because that's who they're buying. I have forgotten your name. Alicia. Thank you, Alicia.
Basically, leave an impression.
Leave an impression. Walk in the door making one and leave one when you leave. Spark some interest. I've heard this said that when you have a free, of course, sometimes you're meeting with people and you're exploring their needs, you're having a meeting with them, it should be so good that they would have paid money for it. Like, they learn so much from you in that hour about their own business that they would have paid. How could that be? Because you're bringing your own insights with you from your other customers. Thank you, Siri. You're bringing your own insights with you. You're perhaps reflecting on what other customers and clients have said. You're asking them how they would handle potential problems that you've already heard from your other customers. So it's a dynamic exchange rather than, this is what I have. It's got a brown cover. It's got a gold spine. You're making that thing come alive. Does this make sense?
It's like igniting the opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. And they can see your passion. When you come in like that, you're going to be memorable. All right. Confidence, I can't say enough about it, but what I can tell you is that lasting impressions start from that first confident interaction. So naturally, we want to put our best foot forward. And I like to say, you know what, in being authentic and in being you, be the person that they would want to work with. Because then it's more likely to happen. And how can you know? How can you even find out? Ask them. What do you look for in a potential collaborator? What might I be able to bring based on the knowledge I've shared with you today that would be most helpful? All right. You've been sitting there listening to me for too long. We're going to do what I call a 90-second treasure hunt. In a moment, but not yet. I'm going to ask you to pretend, it's not a stretch, pretend that you're at a networking event. And in your groups of 3, we're going to have 2 people play sales representatives. So in other words, you'll be yourself. One will be the potential customer. And the idea is you'll have an observer. The observer will write down bullet points, what you say. So we'll decide who will be person number 1, who will be the seller, who will be the buyer, who will be the observer. You will all switch, and I will cue you when to switch. The idea is I want to broaden your mind about confident first impressions and what you can possibly say to open up dialogue. You are not allowed to say, "What do you do?" Why? Why don't I like that question?
So so big, so it could be, an answer could be anything.
Yeah,
Invasive.
yeah. I think it's a little bit aggressive. And depending on the tone, I was at a networking event 2 Mondays ago, and a young professional came over and she said, "And what do you do?" And I felt like, oh, I didn't like that. So there are other ways to say, "What do you do?" but not saying, "What do you do?" You know why? Because you're going to get there. If you are doing this right, you're going to find out what they do. So are my instructions clear? You're going to find groups of 3. Let me see, if there's not, then we'll do 4. And the idea is one person observes. They're going to write down what the seller asks the potential buyer. After 90 seconds, you'll switch. You will know when it is time to switch because you will hear this. And that means it's time for the next person to switch and be the seller. You'll do that 3 times until everybody has had the opportunity to ask questions. Make sense? So there's ways to be really creative about this. And you all were so creative. Give yourselves a hand. All right, we're going to move on. I like to say that the treasure hunt is indeed the sales questions. So what made them good, I bet, was they were conversations. I heard you say you had conversations, a little bit more laid back, maybe not quite so formal and aggressive, but you're willing to let the conversation breathe a little bit. You maybe let them expand where you were listening rather than thinking about what you were going to say next. You were just letting it happen. It might have been inspirational. That's the question that I like. What made you most proud of? That's kind of an example of an inspirational question where they can talk about what they were happy about.
I have a question.
Sure.
They made it easy because they were really interested in
Yeah.
the idea.
Yeah.
So how do you cross that barrier to bring it out of them to be interested in that?
Would anybody else like to know the answer to that question? You might have done some homework. So let's say you knew you were going to be meeting with some ladies, because that's who your product is geared for, and you might say, "What is most important about X to you? Tell me a little bit about your lifestyle. I want to support you and ensure that you have a healthy life. Tell me some of the challenges that you have with Y. Let them talk about what's working for them, what's not working for them, and that gives you information and data so that you can start putting together a little mini presentation when the time is right for it to be delivered. Does that help? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Also, to touch base on your question, you have a great product. If you know you have a great product and you're talking to people who can benefit from the product, that came across in your conversation.
Ah.
Like, I don't know liking, but I would say, okay, well, I might get in the car if I'm in between
Sure.
traffic or something.
There you go. Yeah.
You're just really confident that your product really is beneficial, so if that came across something that I can use.
Okay, good. Yep, 2 more, and then we're going to move on.
Just a comment.
Mm.
Whenever I'm asked what you do, I feel like I sound like an elevator pitch.
Ah.
You know, oh,
Yes.
I sell mattress and you're not,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
thing. So that question, it was good to
Yeah.
say just what you do.
Yeah.
I tend to do the same thing.
It makes me feel defensive. Period, dot. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. And then you're right, I go into rote mode.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that with my product too, because a lot of people say, I don't look good in hats.
Huh?
That's the number one statement,
Mm.
you know, I don't look good in hats.
Mm.
I don't wear hats, I don't look good in them. And then I have to, it kind of puts me on the defense.
Mm.
I look good in hats, so, you know.
Mhm.
I sell hats on my head all the time, that's my
Mhm,
best,
mhm.
you know, that's my best way to sell. It just, it comes awkward sometimes,
Mhm.
and, you know, I feel, oh boy, but, I do have a little saying on my card though, you know, I dare you to try on one.
Ah, so that makes it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're playful. You might ask, well, that's interesting. That's always a really good cushioning statement because you're not being judgmental. Wow, that's really interesting. Tell me a little bit about your lifestyle. Where do you go when you dress up? How do you like to style yourself? All right, let's move on. Here's the thing with questions, which you may have discovered in that little exercise, is that most people don't ask enough. In fact, it's 58% of sales professionals who do not ask enough questions. Oh, it gets worse, because the ones that are doing it, 68% are asking the wrong questions. So there's definitely a whole art to asking questions, and it happens that I teach a module on this. So here's the thing. We got there. Okay, good. Who here would consider yourself to be kind of a heart-centered person, maybe a little bit of a feeler like me? All right, great. What I want to do next is talk to you about making that transition into business-oriented conversation. How do you do that without it sounding clunky and awkward and manipulative? Who here ever meets potential clients over coffee? I like to say, be careful, don't fall into the coffee quagmire. What the heck is the coffee quagmire, Casey? Well, it looks like this, and it's delicious, and the coffee is tasting good, and you're feeling good and relaxed, and you're having a conversation. The thing is that there can be a disconnect between where you want to go and what's actually happening. Because in the flow of the conversation, you feel good. And I know for me, I'm a big feeler. I want everybody to walk away from the table feeling nice, that they got served, that they learned something. What can happen is I do not pay attention to my purpose. I didn't set my agenda for being there. I didn't push it forth, so I wasn't assertive. And then the two of you, by the time you look at, oh my gosh, an hour's gone by, they've got to go. And what have you accomplished? Nothing. So I like to say focus on positioning rather than the clatchy conversation. This diagram, I selected 4 of the top selling skills. And in this diagram, the one that's come to the top is what? Rapport. Now, am I saying here that building rapport is bad? No, I'm not. What I'm saying is be careful not to overly emphasize it in the beginning, right? Because your meeting, your business meeting has a cadence, it has a pace. And you want to also respect your time and that other person's time. So that means that you might say what you have to say, transition, and then get into business, because that way they feel it was a good use of their time, and you're not saying, oh man, how did I let this happen again? Does it ever happen to anybody, or is it only me? Yeah, because it can run away from you. So I like to say that these lasting relationships really start with that initial confident conversation rather than focusing on everybody feeling good. Believe me, if you offer value and you come with your research and what they needed, they're going to feel good anyway. So we don't have to worry about the croissants and the mocha chocolate loca. They'll get that, right?
I didn't get that last, for,
This one?
yes.
So yeah, the 4 core sales skills, there are more, and I have an 8-step sales model, but I boiled it down. Really, the things that you really focus on, I would say the top things: rapport, naturally the questioning, which is what you just did, listening for answers, demonstrating your capability, which is why me, why now, why my product, why my solution, and then closing, how to ask for the business. And if rapport is the one that's always bubbling up to the top for you, you may want to look at what you're doing. It's appropriate to have some rapport, but then it's appropriate to move on, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So we promised you 3 secrets for those of you who have to sell and may be secretly scared of selling. And the first thing that you can do is position yourself. How? Establishing your authority. When I say authority, what does that mean to you all? What's authority?
Credibility.
Know-how, credibility, yes. What else?
Your expertise.
Expertise. It's why you do what you do. It's what makes you rock that thing. So I like to say this gives you the permission to sell without being salesy because you're just stating facts. Maybe it's client testimonials. It's telling them what you did. You're also setting the stage to present your solution later on so that they're not going to say, wait a minute, Casey with the croissants was just sitting here. Who's this person? It has a flow. It makes sense. And it makes you feel good because you're representing the face of your business with power and authority while being who you are, right? The very last point, I said create speech capsules. That's something that I made up. Yeah. One night I was working late and I was looking at a clothes catalog and I kept seeing this term, clothing capsules, like wardrobe capsules. And the idea was you would go into your closet and pick one hanger that had a full outfit on it. How easy is that? You know what you're going to wear. And I said, what if you could do that with your words? What if I could go into my brain and access what I needed? Wouldn't that work? Wouldn't that be cool? And my clients indeed come to me very often because they don't know what to say. So we're going to talk about some of that. Okay, we're going to move on because this is where the meaty meat, the juicy juice is. I call this the agenda speech capsule where you're establishing your authority. I know there are a lot of words on here. I'm going to go a little bit fast. You have my contact information. Some of you are going to want to have a conversation with me after today. But this is what it might sound like. I came prepared to discuss X with you. What is X? That's right. That's your thing, whatever you're selling, as well as some possible solutions. We take great pride in what we do, and we've done some solid work for many organizations. Yet, it doesn't mean that we're right for you. Why might I say that?
It allows you to ask questions and figure it out. Plus, you don't sound like a pushy salesman.
Thank you. I get them to relax right away. It's like, oh, all right, they're not going to try to sell me something. That's cool. It also sets up a reciprocity because it means that this has to work for me too. It's not just about me taking your money. I want to work with clients that I get along with, right? So that I can ensure that we're a good fit, may I ask you a few questions? Do you see how this sets an agenda? How many of you have used something like this before or you're doing this now? Good. Okay, good. So this might be an opportunity for the rest of the room.
It also positions you more as the authority.
It does, right? And didn't we say leadership and sales go hand in hand?
Sure.
Is this leadership?
Yes.
Totally.
And it makes them feel like they have a choice, but with you being the person of kind of gave the choice, it's either this or this, either we're gonna work together or we're not.
Yeah, there you go. It's partnership. We're doing this together. All right, here's the next one. How might you demonstrate credibility? Well, I can walk in with my newspaper clippings and my wah-wah-wah, but is that off-putting sometimes? They feel that I'm bragging. It's a fine line, and I don't want to do that because they're going to not like me. I like to be liked. So I might simply say, well, here's why I feel I'm qualified to come and talk to you today. It's because of my 15-year background in digital marketing. That's why my clients come to me. Here's a couple of the people that I've worked with. Did I do that today at all? Who heard me say I worked in healthcare organizations such as Aetna, Cigna? Yeah. Yeah, I didn't dwell on it, but I let you know that I had some credibility to come here and to coach you on this today. So I like to say 3 supporting points because most people can remember 3s. Partnership from the start. How important is that? They want to know, when you think about someone hiring you as a coach or a consultant, they're really going to be making themselves vulnerable. So they want to know that, hey, we've got each other's best interests at heart here. We want to set up partnership from the very start. Here's some language to help you do that. Who wants to read this one for me? Because this one is really powerful. Who wants to read this one nice and loud? Thank you, Brenda.
If we both agree it makes sense to proceed, I'll share how we can work together. If at any point this is not productive, would you please let me know?
Now, what does that do if you're sitting on the other side of the desk? Does that make you relax even further?
Yes.
Does that make you feel that this person has your best interest at heart?
Yes.
Who's going to use this after today? Good. All right. So that's secret number 1. What was it this called? It's on your sheet. What did I say this was called?
Position yourself, establish your authority.
Establish your authority. We're going to go on to the next one. No sale is going to take place unless you reveal the problem. Why do I have an image here of sand toys? What does this have to do with revealing or surfacing the problem?
Well, whether or not you're going to build something sturdy.
I like that. That's different. Dig it up. Well, when I was a kid, my favorite sand toy was that what do you call that? Sifter. Because then when you're done, what's usually on top? What's in there? Yeah, the good stuff, right? And I would do that for hours, just sifting and sifting. So that's what you need to be able to do with your sales questions. How do we reveal problems? We ask questions. So I like to say, and you know this too, as adults, do people like to be told what to do? No, that gets on their nerves. But they're more likely to buy from you, and they buy into ideas that you help them discover on their own. So you're a facilitator. You know the answer. Sometimes you can see it as plain as day, and you just want to, I can just see it. But it's so much more powerful if you let them discover it and say it, isn't it? So I like to say, let them discover it rather than you tell them what they should do. Should is not a good word anyway. We should all over ourselves. We've all heard that. I want to share with you someone who I'm very proud of, who is a client of mine. She's actually been on TV on Channel 7. Her name is Barbara Hemphill. She is a professional organizer by trade, but she built a whole business on productivity. And for her, learning how to ask questions transformed her whole business. She was in business 35 years when she and I worked together. When she would ask questions of potential clients, it was like popcorn. She would jump all over the place. And it wasn't so effective because she wasn't able to follow a thread through and help them see the impact. So what happened after we worked together was that she closed a $40,000 sale. She got really good at this whole art of asking questions. I share that with you because I want to show you the potential, because you can too. So here's what I like to say: ask, don't tell. Confidently, because you've got the knowledge. Surface what that issue is. Hey, if you got to ride around your car with that sand sifter to remind you as a kind of a structure, do that. Focus on them, because it's not about us. And I like to say, catalyze with compassion. What do I mean by that? That means be disruptive and be nice. They're going to hire you because your questions hit on these 4 areas. How are you going to make their life easier? How are you going to enhance their standing? Some people like to look good. It's just how they're wired. So how is your product or service going to help them do that? Money's always in there. Help them save or make money. And then they're worried. Some people are just worriers. How are you going to help minimize their concerns? And I like to say in the power tip there, ask about what's going on now. What's the current state? What are the shortfalls? Because they can even, after a while, you might say, well, you know, we've been sitting here talking about this for an hour. What do you think? How do you think working together might help you solve this? Trust me when I tell you, when they're able to say that and articulate it, they are more than halfway sold. It is almost like they're selling themselves, and it's easy for you to then go ahead and ask for the business. What do you have to do next?
Listen.
Thank you. Listen. I had a sales manager that said you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately. All right, really quickly, I'm going to ask you all to take a self-assessment. You don't have to write anything down. You can raise your hands. I'm going to ask you these 5 questions. They are also on your sheet. So you can use your sheet to mark it yes or no. That might be really helpful. Write 1 for yes and 2 for no, and we're going to track this. So if the answer to the question for me is yes, I'm going to write a, don't leave me hanging. I'm going to write a no, I'm going to write a 1 if it's yes. If the answer is no, I'm going to write a 2, and then I'm going to ask you to add them up really quickly, because I can't believe it. We have like 10 minutes left. All right.
It says 1 for no, 2 for yes.
1 for no, 2 for yes. You are right, so I messed it up on my slide. Go by what's on your sheet, and I apologize. All right, so when you're having a sales conversation, do you know what questions to ask and how to ask them? If you do, then please write a 2 for yes. Check it off in that box. I'll be quiet, and I just be quiet, because you guys are good on your own.
How about the in-between?
How about the in-between? You have to pick one. All right, so just to speed this up, if you had more than 2 no's, then that's what I call the sales discomfort zone, which might mean it's something to look at in your business. You may need some support in that, but it's definitely something to look at, because I want you to be so comfortable and solid in this that it doesn't hold you back. Does that make sense? I like to say 2 or more no's, that's a sales discomfort zone. So how do we do this? I actually have a system for asking questions. The thing that really we want to pay attention to today is the second blue one, which is the C for consequence questions. My system is ACTION. Each of those stands for a unique type of question. For the sake of today, the high impact questions are the consequence, which would be right there. Because what happens when we don't surface the problems enough, they don't see us as being any different from anybody else. We haven't proved our value. We're coming across as a commodity. What's that mean when we're commoditized? Yeah, we're just like everybody else. So what happens when people feel you're a commodity? They shop around, they buy price. Well, you know what? Since I can't tell the difference, I'm just going to go cheap Charlie, which is a real sad shame. I don't want that to happen to you. So what you will do from now on after today, who's in? You're going to ask consequence questions. What is that exactly? Consequence questions are what-if questions. They're questions that weigh, if something happens over here, what is going to happen over there? It is important to learn and master these, because very often the business owners are so close to it they can't see it themselves. So you're coming in as that valuable, trusted advisor, that consultant that's shining a light on their business and is helping them see the impact of one thing on another. So here's a couple of examples for you. Well, what happens when you don't have enough clients in your business for the month, Mr. Client? What's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to your business? How often does this happen, and then what? What's your plan? What do you do? Help me understand this so that I can help you. What are the consequences of that on your business? How long can you stay in business and sustain yourself if you're losing money? What's the impact of it? What's the impact of not generating enough money for the quarter going to have on your business? So let's say, oh, I can't make payroll. Ah, got it. So what then? What happens when you can't make payroll? And you dig deeper and deeper and deeper. You can stay with one thread and just follow it through till it's exhausted. Anybody ever do this? Ever try this? Okay, good. And finally, secret number 3 is to sell what? The outcome. Because you know what? People don't buy the wedding ring. They buy the happiness and joy and the togetherness. The wedding ring is a symbol, it's a vehicle. But when you're selling your product or service, what are they really buying? They're buying the end result, that vision of what it's going to look like when it's done. They're actually buying nirvana. So Pam, for you, it could be capturing those special magic moments in your wedding that frankly will never happen again. And if they're not caught effectively, they're lost forever. I don't know about you, but I'm sold. Hire that woman! So the only reason why anyone buys anything, no matter what it is, they're looking for results and they're looking for transformation. This is the language that you need to use after today if you're not already doing that. Talk to them in terms of results. What is that? It may be idealistic, but if you can get them there, not so idealistic, it's real. What does that end state look like? Where do they really want to go? How can you help them get there? What's that transformation thing look like, right? So if I'm hiring Pam, it might be an amazing capture of my special day that I'm going to cherish for years. How, what does that mean? You can't get that stuff back. All right, make sense? Mm-hmm. Awesome, awesome. So find out what they want, take their hand, paint a clear picture of success, and you're going to be asking them, tell me what success looks like for you. I'm really curious as to how you haven't achieved this yet. How might working together with me help you get there? What do you see? What's your vision? Where do you want to be by the end of 2018? Ask them those kind of fulfillment-oriented questions. So, homework for you is to go home and think about it. List the outcomes that your product or your service provides. My friend who sells the hats, I didn't get your name. I heard you downstairs. Gwen, I should remember. I have a good friend named Gwen. So Gwen, it might be, a hat is not just a covering for your head. It is to make you look fierce and fabulous and rock it wherever you go. It is an attitude. It's a fulfillment. It's when I walk into that room, I want everybody to look at me and notice because nobody's going to have a hat like I do. So what's that person's dream? What do they want to do? How do they want to show up? So will everybody commit to doing the homework? Mm-hmm. Thank you. And sell the destination, not the plane. That's what this whole thing means. Okay. When we think about a plane, ew, who wants to fly anymore? I flew last week. Oh my gosh, how do I feed my mind so that I can be right when I go in front of these customers and interact with them? And it could also be my business development system that I alluded to. What do I do with those business cards? So without some kind of repeated action and system, our success is accidental. We might be successful, but we don't know how we got there. We can talk more about that outside. If anyone would like to give me a video testimonial, we're going to take that outside. I would love to capture on film. You'll see Tony, the gentleman in the blue. If this really helped you and impacted you today, I'd be very grateful if you would just let us know 30 seconds on camera. Thank you.